Hello, hello. Let me just put this on. Test, test. This one doesn't work as good. Hello, hello. Probably because I don't have it pointed in the right direction. If I put it right here, is that better? Whatever, I'll use this. So I wrote a review for Our African Unconsciousness, The Black Origins of Mysticism and Psychology. Most recent, should be here. Where'd my review go? Is it up for a review? I put that the book was a great. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I said I forget what I said. I called African psychology second psychology. So I won't really, because I forgot what I wrote, and it's weird. I just wrote it, but I tried to talk a little bit about consciousness studies, and there's that Italian physicist or something like that where they basically said like the consciousness is like gravity in the brain or something, and I said that the second psychology that Bynum created was derivative of Sicilian consciousness studies, where bacteria in the gut pulls the consciousness like a black hole, gravity, and reducing it to its smallest form, compressing the data type thing. That's nonsense. That's bibimbap. Bibimbap sounds like a Korean dish. Let me see if I can. Gravity and consciousness. So, I have a degree in biology and chemistry. I've studied some psychology. I've studied political science, anthropology, and when I was making my commitment to psychology, I wanted to remove any uncertainty or indecisiveness. I might start taking the degree in psychology. You know what? I actually want to study this or something. So I wanted a clearly defined definition of what psychology is. Because for most of my life, psychology has been related to some sort of behaviorism. It's related to diagnosing people with bipolar, ADD, these types of things, and studying like problematic behaviors that need correcting. So something like in cognitive behavioral therapy, we might change negative thought patterns or something and replace them with some sort of positive behavior. So then I get into like, well, what about cognition? Well, why isn't that just neuroscience? Why isn't psychology just neuroscience to begin with? What's the difference between psychology and sociology, where I'm studying the ego and alter ego? So when I like to think of psychology now, I like to think of consciousness. And some of this has to do with, um, thinking of different ways we're in sync with our environment. I think I wrote that in review. Something about our DNA being in sync with our environment. And that goes with the nested systems theory, where we start in our home with our immediate family, and then we move up to like our nursery school and kindergarten, and then we move up into another system where there are laws, and then we move into a system of time. And basically, rather than expand and go what's higher than time, I reduced it to a smaller form to our DNA. So the AUG, a start codon, that's the start of our consciousness, and it's in sync with our environment. It's our circadian rhythm. So with consciousness studies, I'm more interested in, I guess I had a video on my phone where I was filming a Roomba, and I was talking about how we perceive our environment. And the Roomba kind of has like these pixels. Let me see. It builds its world like kind of like Minecraft, where it's has all these incoming pixels, and it's picking up physical boundaries. And I'm gonna do a poor job of explaining this. My head is not in the right place right now, but one of the things I was saying is we can add an invisible barrier, and that Roomba is gonna recognize that invisible barrier and not cross it. While studying my psychology in this program I'm in, I was reading up on some of the psychotherapies, and I have a lot of interest in counseling psychology. I want to be treating people who have undergone trauma, and so I didn't really see myself playing the Sigmund Freud. But when I looked at some of the analytical psychology, I looked at Freud's work and I said, well, this preaches empathy too. And I saw that as like what I should be studying more. That's why I recently got some of Freud's books. I got The Interpretation of Dreams. I have a book by Jung here, and I want to be studying their work a little bit more. And but let me go back to the genetic code thing. So there's that waking, dreaming being. I liked this reference a lot. There's a dialogue between a sage and a king, and the king asks the sage, what's a person's light in the darkness? And originally the person says the sun, and then they say the moon. So, what happens when the sun goes down? Oh, the moon. What happens when the moon goes down? Fire. What happens when the fire is extinguished? Speech. What happens when we fall silent in darkness? Oh, the self. Oh, the self is self-illuminating. I disagree. I say words, speech, letters, genetic code is the light and the darkness. I had a group of friends who were computer scientists. They never discussed psychology. Anyway, ooh, man. I'm considering doing my dissertation on executive control, and it comes off as a policy analysis. What makes a mature minor? How do we establish mature minor status for adolescents? And part of this is neuroanatomy, showing when different physiological development points in life. Then maturity milestones, and one of the things I wanted to do. So there's a case, I can't recall it offhand, that discusses how in the juvenile court system you can determine if a child has like criminal intent, they can kind of like be treated as an adult. And I thought of this as a means of declaring maturity for adolescents who understand criminal intent and therefore do not engage in criminal behavior. They understand the consequences of engaging in criminal behavior. And so there's something like the Gillick test in the UK that is used for medical decision making for adolescents, and you have to be like a 16-year. You have to understand the treatment, the benefits and risk of the treatment, the intended therapeutic action of the treatment. And when I was studying children's health law, and I was reading one of the things on the Gillick test, there doesn't seem to be a United States equivalent for. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if it was on this computer or a different computer, because what constitutes consent? So here's the article on the Gillick. What constitutes consent when blah blah blah. So there's here, what I wouldn't like to do is if I had a 12 or 13-year-old child sat in front of me, because assessing maturity under the Fraser guidelines is slightly different. Gillick or Fraser, I mean, I asked one of my professors, what, or not one of my professors, someone in the school. Um, if they had good model of declaring maturity, what is the clinical assessment? And she referred me to a lot of things for determining people who have like mental retardation and stuff. And I guess I want it for normal children to be declared mature minded status. I'm sorry. I'm a little tired. I don't really want to stream this. I'll just leave the mic open as I do some work. My point for the executive control thing, it could be somewhat of a consciousness study, because I'm thinking of the bacteria as having executive control. Yeah, yeah. You know, my vernacular isn't up to par with some other psychologists too. So to prevent myself from sounding foolish, I'll like a gut transplant. Can we absorb someone else's consciousness? If I, if someone changes my gut flora, what happens? Does the donor bacteria change my perception of the environment? Blah blah blah. Another thing I've used is Lenski's. Long-term evolution experiment. Are you familiar with this? Where he had bacteria evolve over multiple generations. Now I believe it was on the 18th generation that it mutated. And how can this be incorporated into consciousness studies? not to mention the narrative inquiry. The way this book read, you want my honest assessment of this book? Like, I took European history. So, my sophomore year of high school, I took European history and like Catholic history. So, both courses had some overlap with like Protestant religions and stuff, and the movement of the Vatican from Constantinople to Rome and stuff, and all that stuff, and the Calvinists and all these things, and it was like some of the things learned in that course over the course of a year, which might encompass 200 pages or more in text, was crammed into 10-page chapters or something. And I just kept waiting for like some substance to, and so it was like you're trying to navigate. So here's the origin of one thing, and then in 660 BC, this religion started, and then it migrated up north, and the people up north decided to go down south, and the people up south decided to go west, and then they did. I don't know. I'm probably doing a bad job of explaining how the book did a poor job, but the book was designed to trigger white people. That's right. It's either that or See, for this assignment, all jokes aside from the Bynum stuff, let's go back to work. So I wrote on this, and I hope that it's clear that I emphasize cultural humility, which I read basically as cultural competence on this assignment. And the three pillars are cultural humility, cultural opportunities, and the last one, cultural comfort, cultural comfort. And that one kind of discussed how REM patients, racial or ethnic minority patients, have lower retention rates when their therapist takes less advantage of cultural opportunities and such. I was unfamiliar with this term Latinx prior to this course. Well, I'll personalize. I'll not personalize. I will be a therapist that discloses too much. I feel ever since Me Too culture, ever since woke culture, it's hard to go outside as a white male. I'm really concerned that my good intentions and my philanthropy and altruistic motives to help socioeconomically disadvantaged groups is going to go overlooked for just based on the color of my skin. Where I was someone who had an agenda to take care of all people, where I was on a career path. I had the pedigree to become a doctor. I had the aptitude to become a doctor. I had the desire to study health sciences and be involved in the healthcare field. And I had no intentions of discriminating. And all my efforts were to put other people's well-being ahead of my own, where I was going to haze myself until I spoke with conviction, not because I read a Dale Carnegie book, but because I had conviction in what I was saying. I was charitable. I tutored math. I volunteered at the soup kitchen, nursing home. I felt comfortable around black people more than white people because I felt white people were uptight. You know, I went to the Citgo down Fairfax because it's 3 cents cheaper than the Citgo by my house. Black people were more comfortable in their skin, very relaxed. but now it's only going to get harder. I think I'm one of these autistic folks where my eyes are just pointed down and I'm oblivious to the racism that you speak of because I do my role. I'll relate it to a video game. I told myself I wasn't going to do this. I did have video games bleed into one of my papers, but in World of Warcraft there's things called raids, and back in the day they were difficult. And I said I do my job. I do my role. I focus on what I'm supposed to do, and I take that approach with my career and my responsibilities. I do what I do. I have to worry about what I'm doing, and I don't get overly wrapped up in your gender or your race. That really doesn't affect my ability to do my job. When I think of cultural opportunities, I was reading the example in Hook, and they had this. I believe it was Caesar and Laura. Was that the name of the therapist? And she missed a cultural opportunity in the first thing where he said he didn't. There was some disconnect at work. There wasn't a sense of community, and this was related to his Mexican culture. And she basically focused. She said, I don't think that's what it is. I think it's your issues with your depressed state that you're going through right now. And I had mixed feelings on her approach. I was even going to write this, but I decided not to. I was going to say it's somewhat contradictory where they talk about cultural humility and don't be presumptuous, don't be arrogant. And I thought it would be presumptuous to think that a person would want to explore culture or something. I felt the whole interaction to be forced. Perhaps I knew it was coming. And the reason why I didn't say that it was contradictory, because, the person brought it up, and I didn't feel it fit. I felt like I was making an issue that perhaps wasn't there. And but some of the questions that popped into my mind, well, I forget what the questions were. Along the lines of, like, why do they need to be Mexican? Can you not do your job without them being Mexican? And of course I would say this more, less arrogant, not arrogant, not... But what is it about Mexican culture? Why do you feel more comfortable around Mexicans? Are you unable to make friends with people who are of different ethnicities? Do you feel that other cultures lack community and familial values? Do you feel that they're judging you because you're Mexican? And then the next section, they talk about cultural opportunities, and they talk about symptoms, symptom-focused treatment versus cultural opportunity-related treatment. And they say it's a microaggression to not take advantage of some of these cultural opportunities. That it's a rich, rewarding experience. Did I misuse the phrase microaggression? Good, because you're missing something out on white culture. I don't have this innate hatred towards people of other ethnicities, and I find deep experiences in exploring other people's culture. Japanese culture. I love Bushido armor, and Japanese architecture. I want to go to Japan. I loved going up to Mount Fuji, this restaurant, and sitting Indian style, taking my shoes off. They had a, what do they call those things? If you didn't have a jacket and tie, they would give you a komodo or whatever. But some of the language, the dialect, the customs, and I looked at American culture and I said, we don't have any culture. Our culture is borrowed, and then there's black culture, and there's rap music, and there's um, don't use rap music. That's not black culture, is it? But I have a person-centered approach where I have this perhaps naive belief that everyone has this tendency towards goodness, and you omit the negative, like existential humanistic. You acknowledge the capacity for good and evil, where it seems like person-centered is just everyone's good, everybody wants to do good. And that gets me hurt, because I extend my trust to people that I don't know really well, because I'm going in with a blank slate, and I have this naive optimism that every person has good intentions. And I know myself I have good intentions. And some of my agenda is to help those who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And if I'm bringing up aren't we, like, if I were to say Serena Williams is good for a black athlete or something, I don't know. Why am I bringing up culture and race and ethnicity? I think it's very common for people to feel ostracized at work. They have their cliques. Perhaps they have been, perhaps this is a new job for somebody, and they don't have established relationships. They haven't formed any attachments yet. So the only thing I think of is this person in this story, in this example, couldn't relate to people who weren't Mexican. He mentioned the word community. That's the one I focused on. Whether that's a Mexican value, or if that's just something he feels should be in an office setting. A sense of community. Did I miss something on microaggression? I could have sworn. Let's go here. Which book was it again? It was Hook. Laura and Caesar. Here's microaggression. A subtle discriminatory insult to or invalidation of Caesar's cultural identity. I think the thing with cultural opportunities is I would have to establish some boundaries at the start of a therapy session. Hi, you're Mexican, I'm white. When you tell me about your traumas, I'm going from the approach of I like to focus on symptoms. It, but you're going to tell me right now that if you bring up your culture, then that's something that we should explore. And you're going to fill me in on my ignorance and any gaps in my knowledge to what you're going to through, so I can gain some empathy. Should I come up with that dialogue of woke culture and Me Too culture? As a white man, I feel that a lot of my philanthropy and altruistic motives and my charity will go overlooked because of the color of my skin in today's culture of cancel culture, Me Too culture, and woke culture. Whereas I am a white man, I innately don't understand how my existence is a microaggression or something like that. Because it triggers black people about. I was going to say slavery. I guess that's insensitive, right? But it's funny because one of my favorite people. I was in Boston. My mother was mentioning something where she says, "Oh, why are we going to have to pay restitution, reparations for, for slavery and stuff?" And it's true. Can you imagine being like an Italian immigrant or an Irish immigrant, and all of a sudden, like, as a white person, you have you have these projections that you somehow owe black people for slavery. Is that not how it works? Where are you getting the money from? So I was thinking of this earlier today. What are some horrific things So I thought of the Holocaust, and if you've ever watched the video of the gassing of the washrooms and the mass burials, the exposed ribs from starvation. I forget the other example. The mic is going to be left on. Let me do some of my work. Rather than sound like an idiot talking about race, the best approach to racism is not talk about racism, because that's the default setting. Like, if it's not addressed by another party, like, I go about my day, I wake up, I brush my teeth. Well, before I brush my teeth, I have a couple of Red Bulls, and then I brush my teeth, because nothing worse than drinking Red Bull and having mint on the breath, right? Then I take my shower and I go about my day. I might have work to do. I might have errands to run. I might walk my dog, feed my dog. I do feed my dog. Uh, um, Perhaps I receive some packages for, you know, Amazon orders I might have placed. You know, which reminds me, I'm running low on rescue. And none of it is directed at, like, you know, malicious intentions towards other groups of people. I'm trying, like I stated before, I'm focusing on my job. I'm focusing on training myself to become, and some of my assignments might ask, like, if I go to some of the courses, and if I go to systems of psychotherapy, and I go to the assignments, and we go to psychoanalytical, it might say, you know, address the humanistic aspect or something. But it doesn't say incorporate multiculturalism. So I won't think about it. I won't think about that aspect. But I will think behavior therapy. I'm not thinking to control, you know, black populations. Zebo? Was it a Zebo? African centric approach versus Eurocentric. You know, that thought never ever crept into my mind about being a form of control over another population. I have thought to myself how, like, if we think like Rosemary's Baby, like, one of the things I wanted to study in health law was loss of control, where you might have a deteriorating mind, and it might be a scary environment where, you know, think of like elder abuse, and your children are telling you have Alzheimer's, and they say that your mind is fading and stuff, and, you know, mom, you're not competent enough, you know, to have scissors and stuff, and you start losing your sense of self. You start losing responsibility. You start losing independence and freedom, and so that's where law is there to protect you, and you indicate your wishes and directives prior to that loss of your mind. And, you know, it's one of my fears, being in like a vegetative state and not being able to articulate my pain and my directives. Um, I think I lost some my point there. But I've never thought of psychology as a means of controlling another population. To me, all the things that are quote unquote controlling of different ethnicities and races is being applied to children as well. Oh, your son came in, we evaluated him for he has defiant personality disorder, he has ADHD, and he's got bipolar. We're going to treat him with lithium and a mood stabilizer and some Ritalin. And I never thought it specific to controlling one population. But the point I'm making with Rosemary's Baby is like people are saying things to perhaps not the best example, but they're saying that someone what they're experiencing in their head isn't real, and basically her neighbors trick her into having this guy looks like the guy at the end, right? his name is what? He's the son of Satan. Adrian, right? Was it Adrian? So the neighbors trick her into having the son of Satan. Sorry to pick on you, Phil. It wasn't until multicultural therapy came that race really became an issue. Also, the midterm paper, because Mr. Daryl Wing Su here is the one he cited here. When you are truly culturally comfortable, you sound culturally ignorant. With the things coming out of your mouth, you don't even understand those microaggressions. You might reference race or color and not even know that you've offended someone because you think you're past the point of offending those populations. You know that your intentions and you have total comfort with people of other races and ethnicities. You speak freely with those people. You don't have conversations, about oppression, and it's just a normal conversation. How's it going? Catch a game last night? It was a nice game, yeah. Who are you voting for tonight? I don't know. I'm terrible at small talk. But you might lack tact. Is that the correct phrase? Tact. Because you are culturally comfort and you have no intentions of being racist. You're not racist. Your comfort level with the other races and ethnicities is high. Could you imagine me as a female? I would be so much. You would like me a lot more. What brought that up? You know, I heard it in the wind. I'm gonna create an app or a computer program. It's gonna be Freud, and it's gonna it's gonna ask me every so often to freely speak, say things that come to my mind with no filter. I picked it up. What made you think? What made you say summer blouses are always beige? Well, I picked it up in the wind. Is that what you think? By the way, when I change genders, it's not, nip tuck here. Do not cut my bits and pieces. I'm not looking for a sex change operation. I do have a desire to have my consciousness, my brain, my mind, my thoughts, my personality, my memories, the thing that defines me as a person, to be transplanted into a human body, uh, into a female body. But I'll have the ability to have children, and I'll be female 100%. Because I am repulsed by transgender. I probably just destroyed all my work by saying that, but I cannot engage. I, as a man, as a heterosexual man, cannot engage in a relationship with a transgender female. regret saying that thing about it. Feeling repulsed. on a unrelated, not like anyone listening to this shit anyway. One of the reasons why I ditched the Roomba is because I didn't want this thing mapping my floor, as in like for any would-be criminals who would want to do like recon, right? On if someone was gonna rob me, oh look, we can just use the Roomba to find out where the vault is. But I have a cat and dog, and would have made a good family therapist and would have made a good sex therapist, but we don't like you, so.
Meet the next generation self-empty robot. The Shark AI Robot Self-Empty. Its advanced AI laser navigation precisely cleans row by row, while avoiding objects day or night. And now, with Ultra Clean Mode, you can target and deep clean single rooms, high traffic zones, and specific spots. Ultra Clean Mode combines powerful suction with a multi-directional cleaning pattern to deep clean areas that need it most. The Shark AI robot also features a bagless HEPA self-empty base that traps 99.97% of dust and allergens for up to a month. And everything is controlled by the app or your voice. This is where cleaning power meets cleaning intelligence.
Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today in this video, I'm going to be checking out the...
It's on sale. It's nearly 50% off.